ain't no funeral home. It ain't the Terradome neither. Welcome to hell.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Spreading a lot of holiday cheer right now. Yeah, how y'all doing? What up? It's me, it's your boy Walter Doom, back for another episode of Let's Talk About Horror, where we talk about any and everything that is related to the genre. And yes, I am back, you guys. I've been on hiatus for a little bit, but your boy gotta bounce back for a little bit for the holiday season, as it is Christmas time, where you spend time with your families and friends. And yeah, I mean, if you don't have any of that shit, you might as well stay home and watch some horror movies instead. Alright? Yeah, man. But before I get into all of that, before we get into the show, I just want to mention, I've been gone for a minute because a couple of things happened. I know, excuse time, right? Well, perfect excuse. So, I caught a cold, and we all know, this is flu season. Yeah. And luckily I didn't catch the flu, but I caught a cold, and that hit me real hard. I took a little break for Thanksgiving, and then I was gonna come back and start recording for this episode, and then all of a sudden, yeah, the cold bug caught me. So yeah, I mean, whenever you guys are listening to this, hope you guys are safe, cool, warm, because yeah, I mean, this cold season is no joke. I already know a couple of people that got sick around my job and all that, and it's crazy how it's just hitting a lot of people. I mean, I feel like this bug has been probably hitting around since maybe, I want to say, October. So yeah, I mean, hopefully you guys stay warm, you guys stay cool, drink plenty of tea, orange juice, soup, whatever you gotta do to make sure you guys stay healthy. Alright, but yeah, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about what's on today's marquee of the show today. What's on the itinerary. Alright, so what we're going to talk about today, you guys, we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about my wish list stream that I did, or should I say my streaming wish list, or movies that I wish would hit the streaming services. Either way, whatever it is, however I want to word it, we're going to talk about my wish list that was on episode 3, I believe, where I talked about all the horror movies that I wish were on stream at the moment. I'm going to recap all those films and actually talk about which ones actually made it and which ones didn't. Should be interesting. Also, we are going to talk about some horror movies that you could catch on stream right now that deals with Christmas. And these are probably some of the streaming movies, well, some of the movies I've watched that are on stream that you guys could check out. Some of my favorites, some of the ones that I like. I won't mention the ones that I don't like. And we also are going to rank the Into the Dark series Nasty Piece of Work. Yeah, we are going to rank Nasty Piece of Work and talk about where that is lying on my rankings for the 2019-2020 season of the Into the Dark season 2. And we also have, you guys, is Meme of the Week and Must Watch Movie to watch for the week. Alright? So, like you shouldn't say and scream, I'll be right back. Alright guys, it is Christmas time. Christmas time has approached. And I hope you guys got all your gifts and everything that you're going to get for the people that you love. Hopefully you guys are finding a day to spend with family, friends. Well, I know I mentioned this earlier, but it doesn't hurt to say it again. Because, I mean, it seemed like a lot of us take for granted sometimes that some of us don't really get to spend time with family or friends. And we all just need to take that moment and just really appreciate the ones that we love the most and just spend time with them. Not trying to sound too preachy or anything like that, but if you're not doing any of that shit and you don't have anybody to spend that time with, here are some movies that you should really check out. So last year I did talk about Christmas movies that I was watching. I don't think I made a list per se last year because I don't think I watched many good films at the time, and plus the options for streaming for me was kind of very limited at the moment. But I do remember that when I was talking about my list of horrors to watch, I did mention one movie that was really good was Red Christmas, which stars Dee Wallace, and that was a really good movie to watch. Right now that movie is being streamed on Tubi. It was on Netflix for a little bit. I guess it finally found its way off of there, and now they're moving it to Tubi now. And I know I haven't been talking about Tubi a lot lately because I've been watching a lot more newer streams, or I've been like doing things like a 31 Days of Horror, or I am reviewing some movie on Hulu, or like one of the Into the Dark series and just ranking those movies. So yeah, or I'm just ghosting you guys for a while and come back a month later. Oh man, but yeah, I know I mentioned like other movies that were horrible during this time, which was the Krampus movies, which I really am still disappointed from a lot of those movies. I still can't believe I sat there and watched all those damn Krampus movies, and they were total shit. No one should ever really mention Krampus in the light of Christmas movies ever again, because just they were god awful, really god awful. Especially Krampus, I believe it was Reckoning, where they had a really CGI'd Krampus. And I remember I talked about this before because it was the one thing that I couldn't just forget, was that they had a super CGI'd Krampus with a very long dick. Now, I'm not gay or anything like that, but why was that the most noticeable thing with like the character himself? I'm wondering like, yo, why is this dude packing so much? Like, what kind of movie am I watching? Like, I'm just waiting for someone to tell Krampus that they've been a very naughty person, and you know, the sex music comes on in the background. Like, it was really that type of film. Like, it was that weird. But being as that is one of the movies you should not check out because it is so terrible, here are some movies you guys should check out and why you should check them out. So I'm gonna give you guys 5 movies that I really think that are good right now that you should check out in no particular order. In the Apocalypse, now on Amazon and Hulu. Definitely really good zombie film, taking it more in a musical sense. And I've mentioned why I like this movie before in earlier podcasts when I went and saw the movie in theaters. I mean, when I was going to see it, I knew it was a musical. I wasn't full like Sweeney Todd or anything like that, where you're thinking that you're going to see this graphic horror movie, but it turns out to be this graphic musical horror movie. No, I already knew what I was in store for. Now, I didn't think it was going to be as good as I thought. It was really good. I mean, I thought it was going to be an okay film, but it turned out to be more good and well written than I thought, actually. The songs are very good and catchy. Of course, they're very poppy also. So if you're not anybody that's like into the pop rock sound or anything, or musical sounds or anything like that, I mean, you might not be interested in this movie. But if you don't mind, you could definitely check it out. And if you want some zombie action, I mean, for me, I've always been like a negative person about zombie flicks, but this was one zombie flick that really caught my attention and I didn't mind watching. Red Christmas, like I mentioned before, Dee Wallace stars in it. Crazy slasher film, very graphic, blood everywhere, but also has a very intriguing story about abortion and just like taking a stance about like people's feelings about abortion and what would happen to a fetus if it didn't really get killed and it just fell into some toxic chemicals and it grew up to be a vengeful person. That is Red Christmas. Definitely, I mean, spoilers on what I just said, because we do find out that the killer is actually a child that Dee Wallace's character thought she aborted a long time ago, but ended up surviving anyway. So yeah, definitely check out Red Christmas. But if you don't want to check anything that gory, you could check out The Nightmare Before Christmas by Tim Burton on Disney Plus. So yeah, I mean, for those that are Disney fans, you guys could check that one out. I don't need to really go into details about that film. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of us have watched that film before. But if you guys are looking for a family type horror to watch, you know, around the family, I mean, I could also include as a bonus with that, Before I Wake, which was also a really good film. I can't remember whether it was centered around Christmas or not. I don't think it was, but I feel like it was a little bit. But if it's not centered around Christmas, definitely disregard that. But definitely check out Nightmare Before Christmas if you want something family oriented. Another film, which is kind of a sleeper film, a little more low budget, is Secret Santa. And that one is on Amazon. And if you guys saw this film, I mentioned this film before, I believe. If you follow me on social media, which is at Walter Doom on Instagram and at Walter Doom 1 on Twitter. But this film was definitely a slasher that just has so much nostalgia to it. Like, it was shot in a very 80s slasher film style, which was a really good change of pace from when I saw this film compared to other Christmas films, which were kind of a little bit, either they were high budgeted or they were low budgeted. But this one was a little bit low budgeted, and they were filtering its low budget screenshots in a way that really worked for the film. So yeah, I mean, if you guys are interested in this film, you get an interesting little story, predictable at times also, sort of goofy, but it's not as bad, especially once when all the violence hit. So that's one to check out also. Last but not least, and this one is kind of a sleeper, it is A Christmas Horror Story. And the reason why I say this one's a sleeper, because I didn't think this one was going to be as good as I thought it was going to be. And this is coming around the time where I've seen all those Krampus films and they were really horrible. So when I saw this film on Amazon, where you could check it out, I was just thinking to myself, like, do I really want to watch another horrible Krampus film? And turns out when I watched it, it wasn't even that. It was actually a really good I want to feel like it's an anthology film because you do go through different stories. In these different stories, they're not told in a very linear sense. They are kind of broken up, so you do get like different stories being told like back and forth and what have you. Well, you're kind of switching up stories continuously. But the thing that is really good about this movie, which really caught my attention, was actually the ending and climax for each story and the story of the movie, period. And I mean, I'm not going to spoil the ending or anything like that, but it is definitely worth a watch. I mean, it really made me lose my mind after watching this film. But yeah, those are the 5 films that I think are pretty good. I'm going to throw in a bonus one, P2, which deals with a stalker. I just saw that one today. Actually, before I started this film. I mean, not this film, before I started this podcast. And this one was really good for the simple fact it gets very disturbing. You're dealing with a stalker who traps this woman inside of a garage. And everything he's trying to do is very, like, disturbing. There's no other way to really describe it, but it's very disturbing. So if you guys want to check that one out, that one is also on Tubi too. So yeah, I mean, those are my 6 Christmas movies that you guys could check out if you want to check out a Christmas horror. Alright, you guys, so right now we are going to take a break and come back, and when we come back, we are going to talk about my streaming wish list results when we come back.
Red rum. Red rum. Red rum. Red rum. Red rum. Red rum.
Alright guys, we are back now. Now, in my 3rd episode of doing this podcast, which I can't believe we're like 27 episodes only in. Oh man, we're going to aim better for 2020, you guys. Gonna be a lot of changes. Hopefully we have more episodes and I don't ghost you guys like I'm doing. But anyway, on my 3rd episode of this podcast, I had a wish list of, in my 3rd episode of my podcast, I made a list of like different movies that I was hoping would hit Netflix so that we could stream. So I've gave you guys a list of like movies or franchises that I was hoping will hit the streaming platform. Now that we're pretty much going into 2020, let's revisit that list and see where we're pretty much at right now. So, first movie that I talked about hitting the platform was Friday the 13th franchise. For my initial thought about the film, yeah, if you guys been keeping up, I said the film was actually good. I actually said the franchise is good. But lately, if you heard my franchise talk, which I might bring back for the new year, we're going to have more of that. I just need to spend more time choosing the next franchise that I want to talk about. And yeah, I'll talk about the next franchise and rank those. Yeah, I actually said that franchise was really good in the initial podcast, but after the franchise talk, I've actually saw the flaws of what was Friday the 13th and actually rated it much lower than what it is now to what it was then to me. So, and you can kind of blame that on watching different horror movies, you know. I mean, when you start watching more and more movies, I mean, you start almost kind of look at the movies that you liked before kind of in a different light, you know. When I was younger, I used to really love The Butterfly Effect. Now, being older than I am, when I watch the movie now, I just think to myself, like, why do I like this corny shit? Like, what was going on with me? Unfortunately, Friday the 13th never did hit Netflix, but it did hit Amazon and Hulu. Some movies, though, from the franchise did hit Netflix. Jason Goes to Hell and the reboot of Friday the 13th, the last one before the court case kind of took over the whole production of Friday the 13th. But yeah, those films made it, and I believe also Freddy vs. Jason made it also to Netflix. So yeah, we got like a handful of, well, not really a handful, but we had a couple of Jason movies that hit the streaming platform. But if we wanted to actually watch the old school original Friday the 13th to wherever the fuck, well, before Jason Goes to Hell, yeah, they were definitely on Amazon and Hulu, and you really had to take that opportunity if you had those platforms to just watch those. The next movie that I was hoping that would hit the platform again, Darling, and that one is starring Lauren Ashley Carter. I blanked out on the name so much. That one was so terrible. But I mentioned that Darling was a possession haunted house type film that was told in a story of chapters, and it was definitely a very good black and white film, which we don't really normally get from a lot of films these days. But yeah, it was a very gorgeous black and white film, very gory also, once we actually got to some killing that happened. I mentioned that the film should really come back to Netflix because of how just original and how unique the story is. And instead of hitting Netflix, it hit Amazon instead. I believe it still is on there. We can still catch it to this day. I believe it also hit Shudder. I'm not too sure, but yeah, definitely Darling. If you have Amazon and you still want to check it out on Amazon. Moving on, the next movie that I was talking about that should hit back to the platform is Hellraiser Inferno. Now, I always get the Hellraiser movies kind of confused because I'm not really that much of a big fan, and I mentioned that before. I'm not really a big fan of those movies. Now, since that podcast, it's kind of changed a little bit. I mean, I'm still not a fan of the franchise itself, but my idea for the first two Hellraiser movies drastically changed and had a major turnaround. I still think Inferno is one of the best ones in the franchise. Bloodline is also another good one. And actually, Hellraiser Judgment was definitely a really good breath of fresh air from all the other trash ass movies that followed after Bloodline. What makes Inferno very good and unique, I mean, it's a very uniquely told story that has less Pinhead in it, and it's told in almost a horror noir kind of way, and it's like a little detective story about who is this engineer that is trying to ruin this detective's life by framing him for murder, even though this detective is not living the best, squeakiest of lives possible. But yeah, this film does take like a lot of elements and kind of seamlessly not even put it in a goofy manner. I mean, it's actually done quite nicely. I mean, between like the horror, the noir aspects of it, the mystery, and actually there's a little karate western in it too for a little bit. So for this film, I mean, it's actually done a lot more uniquely well than other Hellraiser films. with a lot of elements to it. It never did come back to the streaming platform of Netflix, but I was able to find the film itself on Tubi, which is still, I would say, the most underrated platform. I've been saying that for the longest. I was at Hollywood one time and they were actually advertising Tubi on a billboard. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot more people are aware of the platform now. But if you're not, definitely check it out. You can stream anywhere. Next one that I said that should come to the platform is the 2017 version, or 2018. I can't remember which year it was. I'm talking about the new It movies, It Chapter 1. I ended up buying that movie instead of waiting for it to come onto the streaming service. But I knew also the only way to stream it was by HBO Go, and you guys already know I was not gonna fuck with HBO Go based on my rant about streaming service. But never say never, because we could officially say fuck me. Why? Because I ended up getting the goddamn mouse. Yes, I went and got Disney Plus. And just not regular Disney Plus, but I actually went and got the bundle. Because, why the fuck not? Sports. Oh, man. Yeah, I had to hate myself for a couple of weeks. Probably also why I've been ghosting you guys. Because I know as soon as I mention it, someone might actually say, like, well, what happened to not fucking with Disney Plus? Look, man, things kind of changed. I went to see the new Star Wars movie, and I needed to wait to catch up. I never saw the originals, sadly. I saw the prequels, thought they were good when I was a kid, but trash. And I've seen The Force Awakens, and I didn't watch The Last Jedi until recently. So yeah, I had a lot of catching up to do. Would you believe I actually spent that whole week, the last week, catching up on the Star Wars films? And in that last week, I actually caught up to them. I actually caught up to all the Star Wars movies. So yeah, I am glad that I saw all those films. But I am very, very, very disappointed from this last film. What in the actual fuck? And if you guys actually seen it, you guys probably already know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, it was definitely a big heap of shit. And I am not using that to the lightest of terms. Moving forward, I ended up buying It Chapter 1 on DVD. And as you guys probably also know, that I saw It Chapter 2, and I really did like that film, even though a lot of people didn't really care for the film. And that's understandable. It was definitely significantly long, and the story was kind of dull and boring almost. But I enjoyed the film. I enjoyed the gore in it. The ending of the film actually does make me recant my thoughts about how good the ending was. The way they stopped Pennywise, I still do think it was definitely horrible. I never was a big advocate on how they stopped him and they destroyed him for good, but I'm talking about past that, where they get the letter from what's his name? Fuck, I can't remember his name right now. But he died. Oh, Stan. Yeah, they got the letter from Stan, and the way he wrote it, I mean, he kind of downplayed his suicide a bit as a sacrificial type of thing, and his friends just getting happy about it. It was definitely very terrible. I mean, that's a terrible thing to kind of put in a movie and kind of project out to like people and all that, because suicide is no joke, you know. But moving forward, the next one I said was the Conjuring series, and we still only got the Conjuring, the first Conjuring movie. Annabelle Creation is right now on Tubi, and that's pretty much all we have as far as like the Conjuring series. But I would say for myself, fuck the Conjuring series. Moving forward. The next one I said that should be on the platform is Scream franchise. The whole franchise. So basically from the first Scream to the last. It actually did hit on Netflix with all features from the franchise. And it was on there for a month. But if you took advantage, which I really didn't, because I was hoping that it was going to be on there for quite a while, but nope, it wasn't. It was just on there for a month and it moved on. Well, they moved on, and right now I believe it's only the second and fourth installments that are currently on the streaming platform. Now, I still love Scream, and I love the fact that right now that there is going to be a fifth movie in the works. Yeah, by Spyglass Entertainment, and I'm glad that they are going to bring it back. I know I've recorded this before, but I never really released my opinions about it, I believe. But if I did, I mean, hey, I need to stop recording shit and not releasing it. But, yeah, I'm really happy that they're bringing the franchise back, because it is one of my favorite franchises. As you guys know, one of my favorite franchises. Well, my second favorite franchise is definitely the Scream franchise, next to the Saw franchise. And yeah, I mean, I'm ecstatic to see what kind of story that they're going to bring about this film. It's not known yet whether this movie is going to be a reboot or a remake. I'm hoping for more of a reboot, because no one gives a fuck about a remake, actually, too much. I mean, not to say that remakes are bad, because we are in an age where remakes are actually being better taken care of compared to past remakes in movies that were made before. But yeah, I'm just hoping for a reboot where we get to see Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette all coming back together. David Arquette actually made a comment about the whole Scream franchise, about how they haven't reached out to him or anything like that yet, or at all, I should say, to do this movie. So he doesn't even know what's going on. But I mean, that could be just like foreshadow or misdirection. I mean, let's keep in mind, we didn't even think Tony Todd was going to be in the new Candyman movie. But look what happened. He's in the new Candyman movie. And it's supposed to be a spiritual sequel and what have you. But yeah, we really thought Tony Todd was not going to be in the Candyman movie at all. But I don't know what happened. Like I said, smoke and mirrors. He could be misleading us. But he is definitely going to be in it. Moving on to the next one. Staying in line with the Scream franchise is the Scary Movie franchise. And I said it would be great to have Scary Movies 1 and 2 back on there. Now, those movies actually did hit the platform, but I believe only one of them did, and I believe it was the second one. I can't remember which one it was that hit the platform, but either way, one actually hit Netflix, the other one hit Amazon. I don't remember which one, but yeah, it was good to kind of watch those films. I actually watched one of the films on my 31 Days of Horror event, or watch list, or watch nights, I should say. And yeah, I mean, it was worth watching. The next one, Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. That one hit Shudder, and it was good to see that one actually on there. And I watched it multiple times in that 1 month that it was on there. And it really did make me enjoy the fact that Freddy Krueger might be my favorite out of the whole Jason, Freddy, Chucky. Who else am I missing? Leatherface type dudes. You know, Freddy might be the guy. And that's just because he has a little more charisma and he's funny. And he is definitely very violent. I mean, don't get him mistaken. I mean, he won't hack a bitch like Jason, but he will catch them bitches sleeping in their dreams. Alright, moving on. The next movie that I was hoping that would be on the platform is The Purge. The Purge franchise, and I ended up buying those on DVD also. Watched those and enjoyed every minute of it. I would have to say the only thing that is... I don't even know what I was going to say. The only Purge that we really got on the streaming services was the Purge TV show. Now, I didn't even know there was a TV show. Am I going to watch it? I don't know. Probably not. I'm looking more not than anything. But if I do get to watch it, I mean, yeah. I still haven't watched American Horror Story Apocalypse. I still need to watch that. That is definitely on top of my list more than anything else. But yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that I finally got a chance to watch The Purge on, the Purge franchise movies. And they were actually really good movies. I really don't have much negative to say about any of the films. I mean, maybe if I watch it again, maybe I might find something. But other than that, I really do enjoy those films. And the last movie that I was hoping would hit the platform is Die, which is probably the only film that hasn't hit the platform again at all. And Die is like this Saw-esque type movie, a very mysterious film that is very gory, but has a message and what have you, kind of like Saw, but it never really did materialize back onto the platform. Maybe in 2020. Alright, you guys, so right now I'm going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we are going to rank the Into the Dark series movie, A Nasty Piece of Work.
What's your favorite scary movie?
So we have been blessed by the gracious company of Blumhouse Entertainment to give us each month a holiday feature film to kind of keep us tied into our horror sensations each month. Yes, I am talking about the Into the Dark series, where each month we get a horror themed holiday film and I get to watch them and rank it for you guys. So yeah, I mean, this year, this is our second season of it. Last year was a very good season. A lot of things that were kind of like the same for some films, but overall, the series itself was actually really good. This year we are treated to a little more disturbing films than usual, and actually, I feel like this year they are really trying to up the ante on what type of films we're getting as far as like themed films and what have you. For the first month, which is October, which is Halloween, we got the Uncanny Annie, which was some uncanny shit, by the way. But let's not take its shittiness and disregard for the fact that this movie was definitely very disturbing in every way possible through the games that were being played by Annie, which was very unfair and just was manipulating the cohorts of friends to draw out a very dark secret that one friend was cheating on the other friend for her boyfriend. Well, the friend was trying to steal her friend's boyfriend, basically. I kind of worded that wrong. But yeah. And each moment was just a secret that needed to be unraveled slowly but surely. But even though it was kind of foreseeable anyway, and the secret about how their friend died, I mean, it was definitely still a decent film. But that won't be compared to the Thanksgiving film, which was a lot better than the flesh and blood piece of shit that we got last year, to the more disturbing Pilgrim movie, where a pilgrim and his legions, or should I say cult, are basically taking over a family's home and turning it into the very first Thanksgiving holiday, but in a more deadly fashion and in a more gruesome way possible. Between heads getting chopped off, people getting put in the pool to drown, and just poison berries going around. This film was definitely probably one of their best ones yet so far out of the series, which is like not really saying much, which is a small sample size, until we are brought to Nasty Piece of Work, a movie where you are trying to move up in the ranks of your company, and all you do is just get shitted on by the boss. Yep. I kind of like that little intro. I don't know. I'm trying to get better for you guys. But yeah, this movie was definitely a real, I don't want to say knee jerker, eye jerker, or whatever kind of jerker. I don't know what we're jerking, but pause. But this was definitely one of those films that it got real disturbing as we progressed deeper into the film. And we are brought onto the film and we're introduced to this character named Ted, who is played by Kyle Howard. And in this role, Ted is just a family man. You know, he's trying to take care of his wife and family. And all he want to do is move up in the ranks of his company. But his boss, Mr. Steven Essex, played by Julian Sands, is always giving him shit. Each time Ted tries to show a little bit of stepping up to the plate a little bit more, but then given a short end of the stick of where he messes up. As in bringing the boss his expensive golf clubs instead of bringing him his less inexpensive golf clubs to take out golfing. So what does Ted do? He kind of uses those golf clubs and tear down some mirrors in the bathroom. Oh my God. I mean, yes, Ted has definitely an anger problem, and pushing his buttons enough will definitely get him kind of over the edge. Now, the thing that I want to focus on, I mean, you guys know I always have a breakdown, but the thing I want to talk about first is definitely the story and how I mentioned that it gets very disturbing as we progress. And honestly, each time we get into the story, it just gets even more and more crazier. So we're brought into Steve Essex's house because, before we ended up there, at the company that Ted works with, him and his rival Gavin and a group of other coworkers, they learned that this year they are not taking any Christmas bonuses at all. And instead of getting some, substitute bonus, as in like getting some jelly instead as a complimentary gift to the workers, they get absolutely nothing. So they really get shitted on by the boss and his group of cohorts of millionaires and all that. So Steve Essex is basically taking a smoke or whatever, or drink or whatever. I don't remember what he's doing. Ted decides he wants to try and get even, but instead of getting even, he gets invited to the boss's house. Little does he know, not only is he going to be there with his wife, but Gavin is going to be there with his wife, who is the smoking blonde chick. And I mean, she is as dumb as they come in the story. But as we are introduced to these characters, we go into the boss's house and we are introduced to him and his wife. And what it seems to me is that, you know, we're in a story where at first you're just like, it seems like a regular dinner where you're meeting the boss and his very eccentric, sexualized wife, who is definitely trying to diddle more than just like these people's heads a bit. But she is definitely pushing the boundaries also with Steve and his line on how much he's gonna take from her, as in how much shit he's gonna take for her. So we get to a point where like we're on some lighthearted questions about the guy's idea. But the thing that gets even more disturbing is not just the violence that happened in the film where we see Kiwi, who is Steve's wife, get her head blown off, but it's more about like the secrets and thoughts about these characters that get more and more disturbing, which raises the stakes about who is going to live and who is going to die, or who's going to get this promotion and walk out alive, obviously. Spoilers should be known that we are going to talk about it, but secrets that get even more disturbing is that it starts off small with just like how Gavin may feel about Missy and how Ted feels about certain things around the office, to get it even more deeper to where like we get into the world of how Ted was hiding for the fact that he hit a kid on a bike, which caused him to be paralyzed, which in result really wasn't even paralyzed to begin with. He was just a ploy in Steve X's game of trying to promote Ted to Gavin, who ends up learning that even though he is playing this whole asshole role with the big boys of like Steve X's and think that would impress him, he slowly but surely learns that no matter how much you try to pretend, it's not going to be enough to help you get ahead in life and run with the big boys or even just be part of the table at all. So the game, which is this interview, is really being stacked against you, and he finally learns that this whole job is not really for him, but it was more for Ted to see how far of a line he is going to push to take the next step to be into that position. I gotta say, that story was definitely very interesting. I would have to really say the most devastating thing about the story is that even though as good as it was, the ending was definitely not really what I was expecting, where after Steve gets killed by Ted's wife Tatum, who is played by Angela Serafian, I'm pretty sure I'm saying her name wrong, she ends up actually taking the role of the company and ends up taking the position that Steve X's had. Now, to me, I mean, it didn't make any sense at all, for the simple fact that she didn't even work for the company at all, you know, and somehow just magically, after just killing off the boss, who was definitely more of an asshole in more ways than one, also just like Gavin, killing him just all of a sudden brought on this whole Roman-esque story where hey, you slayed the boss, now you're the boss type deal. It's so crazy, right? But that was one thing that was really off about the film. Next thing I want to talk about is like the acting and characters. The characterization of these characters were really good in the story. I mean, I like the way they kind of build the back. Well, they kind of gave you a bit of knowledge without actually going too heavy into a backstory for these characters. You get like a lot of ideas about like how Ted is trying to provide for his family, and how him and Tatum, when they're having this conversation about how he's not getting the bonus, they're trying to figure out ways to kind of maintain and trying to move on during this holiday season, which is going to be a very expensive one. Now, I mean, without even actually hearing it, I'm pretty sure they have kids in this film. They don't really mention anything about them having any kids, but I'm pretty sure they have like maybe 1 or 2 kids or what have you. For them, it was like this Christmas bonus was actually going to be the thing that kind of helps them throughout this time of year. As good as the characterization of these characters and, you know, the way they build them, it was kind of hard to also connect with these characters. As in, like, it was kind of hard to really say, like, yeah, I want to see Ted succeed. I want to see Gavin succeed. I mean, we obviously didn't want to see Gavin succeed at all if you were watching this film. But it was more of so, like, we don't know whether we wanted Ted to succeed or not. And we didn't really know much about Tatum to where we were just on her side completely, to where she was going to be bumped into that whole role of like, well, we want to see Tatum kind of succeed, so we need Ted to succeed. It was just to the point like maybe we didn't really care for Ted that much enough, and I feel like in this film we really don't care enough for him to where we want to see him actually succeed, or just for the fact that if we didn't really care if he actually was the one that was going to die or not. I mean, who knows? I mean, that's just my opinion about that. I mean, for me, I did want to see Ted kind of succeed in showing like that he was going to get the position. I mean, it seemed like it was definitely very stacked in his position. I mean, after we learned that, you know, even though we thought the boss didn't really notice Ted at all, the boss really did notice, and he did take great detail of every little aspect in Ted's life to figure that he wanted that guy in that position that he was trying to create. Ted doesn't really degenerate into Steve X's plans of actually killing Gavin in order to get that position. We still don't end up like really caring for him anyway. He just ends up being like just another character that's just in the film that we're following, and just, I don't know, comes off more cynical and sarcastic than anything, and not to the most delightful sense, but more in a more what am I saying? In a more annoying, snarky attitude. But the thing is also in this film that you would notice is definitely also how characters in the film are kind of like being moved and manipulated. The tone of the film itself is very comedic, which is also, it's good, but it's also very bad, because a lot of the jokes tend to end up falling flat and not really funny in the first place. Like Missy's joke about the piece of meat on the side when everyone finds out that Ted has been visiting this paralyzed boy that he thought that he paralyzed, but ended up not really being paralyzed at all. He kind of kept that a secret from his wife, and he actually had to come out and tell her, like, this kid is someone that actually got paralyzed because of me. And Missy, she ends up saying, like, well, I told you had a piece of meat on the side. And that just that was one joke that really did fall flat on his face. Another thing that also was a very flat joke was definitely a lot of things that was happening with Gavin, especially when like he got his hand shot. I mean, when he got his hand shot, that was funny. Honestly speaking, I think the violence that was happening towards the characters were more funny than the actual jokes that were being said in the film, which was supposed to be for like comedic timing, which wasn't really that good anyway. But when Gavin got his hand shot and he took some pills, and Gavin asked like, "What are these?" and Steve told him like, "I don't know, but I found them under the sofa, so I could tell they're really fun." I don't know whether that was supposed to be a joke to laugh at or just go like, okay, that's just weird. I mean, that's just how I felt, and it just felt like a very awkward joke that was happening in the film. Also, what was also very what was also very awkward in this film was definitely the ending when finally Steve gets killed, like I mentioned before, and the group is actually leaving. They're met by Steve's board of directors, which I'm pretty sure that's what they are, and they're all in masks and what have you. So they told the group that was inside, the dinner group, that they have eliminated $40 million in salary and medical expenses. So I don't know whether that was supposed to be funny or not, but when that line was said, it was also met with some Christmas music, kind of like to show that it was a Christmas miracle, which is a very twisted way of saying that's a Christmas miracle, because someone literally just got killed in their own home for whatever reason or the other. But it was definitely very awkward, and it did kind of build on the cheesiness and corniness of this film and its comedy aspect that it tries to really take on, but doesn't really do so well in doing. But in other things that it does very well is definitely the gore and terror that we see in this movie. Like I mentioned before, the violence is definitely very funny, especially when we see Kiwi, who is the first person to get killed. We see that her head gets blown off in the middle of nowhere, and everybody is just screaming. And, you know, all you hear Steve go is, "This is my house." I mean, it just felt like very Chuck Norris of him, you know, kind of like he was going to say Roadhouse every time someone does something crazy or whatever. But yeah, I would say like it definitely did good with the violence. I mean, it did make the violence very gory and very tasteful in very ways, that which made it very funny about it. But the thing is what was terrifying also was just the thoughts about the plight of dependency on living this day-to-day job and trying to get ahead in life, or just end up failing and being fired or whatever. Now, in the film, it was told to Ted and Gavin that there was a job being created for someone to move up, and they were going to eliminate another person when this job is being made. Now, we know that the job was being made for Ted. I mean, we know that. But the thing is that we know about Ted is that, yeah, he was definitely struggling. Like, we could truly see that, you know, dealing with, like, his wife and, like, how they were talking about, like, the money and the Christmas bonus and what have you. And just, like, little things, like, about how he wanted to impress the boss on their way over there. And how he mentioned that his wife's earrings said, "Well, you look like you're from Des Moines," which was like a very snarky statement to make towards his wife to say like, hey, we don't want you to wear that cheap shit around my boss. But it was definitely, you could feel like their disparity of trying to live a better life, and not only just with them but also with Gavin, also who him and his wife, you know, they live a pretend lifestyle and maxed out credit card, well, through maxed out credit cards. You know, he's driving an expensive car, have expensive suits, and tries to have an expensive taste to kind of impress his boss, but all of that comes at an expense also for him, where he has to duck creditors and just pretend like, you know, he's this persona that he doesn't really want to be. But he does it for he does it all for trying to advance in his career. And definitely that's what makes it more terrifying, because I'm pretty sure we all have gone through that whole being at a job we just really don't like. And, you know, you want to advance in that job, but, you know, you got to go through all these leaps and bounds and trying to impress the boss and try and be on the boss's good side and all that. And honestly, I mean, to me, it's definitely stressful. It's definitely stressful because you're like, I have to depend on this job. My family depends on this job for me to actually work this every day and trying to do the best I can. And hopefully maybe in 2 or 3 years, maybe 5 or so, I could advance and move on to the next course with a better paycheck and a better life to kind of give my family. Yeah, and I just really think that was the most important thing that this movie really does portray, as far as like things that are terrifying to us. And yeah, I mean, within all of this Rams, I mean, where this movie lies, I scored it at a 3.25, which will make it right now the second best movie next to Pilgrim. I mean, it was definitely a good film. I mean, it wasn't perfect by any means necessary, but it was definitely a worthwhile film to watch. I mean, would I watch it more than once? Probably not. Pilgrim, I would definitely watch more than once. It definitely has its replay value, but as far as a nasty piece of work, it is definitely good enough to actually get over Uncanny Annie, but it's not good enough to where I just want to say I really do want to watch this movie again. Now that we kind of got this movie ranked, we are going to go ahead and take another break, and when we come back, we are going to do the outro.
Wendy, darling, light of my life, I'm not going to hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. I said, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to bash your brains in. I'm going to bash them right the fuck in.
Alright, as you guys know, we always have a must-watch movie of the week, and we have a meme of the week. So the meme of the week is a Freddy Krueger meme in a Santa Claus suit, and it says, he knows when you are sleeping. And honestly, fuck yeah, he knows when you are sleeping. Probably better than Santa Claus does. Alright, and our must-watch movie of the week is definitely Red Christmas, and I talked about it earlier. It's definitely on Tubi, and you guys could definitely check it out. It's definitely worth watching if you guys want a Christmas horror movie to watch that you just can't seem to choose what to watch and what have you. That is definitely the movie to watch. Other than that, this has been another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. I'm about to head out. You guys have a Merry Christmas. I will be back before the new year hits to give you guys a list of my favorite 2019 movies that I've watched, and boy, do I have a lot to say about those. Don't be surprised, you guys, if you don't hear some of your favorites like Bliss or The Prodigy. Who the fuck cares about The Prodigy? I mean, that's pretty much coming out next year on Shudder, by the way. So I can't wait till that actually hits. But yeah, just don't be surprised that there's some movies that I haven't listed for you guys, because I actually haven't got a chance to actually see those films. So like 3 from Hell, what's another one? Doctor Sleep, that's another one. But yeah, I mean, one day I'll get to those movies, but it just won't be on that list because I never got a chance. So it's gonna be mainly movies that I actually watched. So kind of like Child's Play, Climax, stuff like that. You know, ones I actually caught in theaters and on stream. So yeah, but that will be for next week. So yeah, definitely tune in. I will check you guys out. I will come back for you guys next week. If you want to follow me on my socials, which is at Walter Doom on Instagram and at Walter Doom1 on Twitter. Other than that, I am signing out. This is America. Don't let them catch you slipping up. Peace.